Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more turkey patterning, and today we've got a pretty highly requested combination with a new choke that a lot of you guys really wanted to see us try, so I had to go out and pick up one of these chokes to see what it could do, because in theory should be a pretty impressive performer, especially with today's shell combination. But as for today's shells, I brought out some more of the Rocky Ridge TSS loads, but these ones are the 20 gauge 3-inch 2-ounce payload of TSS 9 shot, moving about 1100 feet per second, and these are definitely some pretty stout shells and some pretty good performers in my testing of them so far as well. And a 2-ounce payload and a 20 gauge shell is a pretty hefty load. That's a lot of pellets flying down range. I mean, that is a pretty decent sized 12 gauge load in a 20 gauge shell. So definitely a pretty stout shell, but what can it do through today's new choke? And as for today's combo, I brought out my Stevens 301 20 gauge. This one has a 26-inch barrel on it. And for that new choke, I picked up one of these, an Avian-X Crusher 565 constriction. A ton of you guys have really wanted to see a 20 gauge Avian-X choke. We've tried the Crusher in 12 gauge countless times, and it's actually a really solid performing choke for that kind of middle of the road price range. I believe these are like $45-ish, give or take a little. So we'll see what the 20 gauge version can actually do, since in theory it should be a pretty good performing combination here. But as for today's test, everything is set up the same as usual. The turkey target's at 40 yards, and we've got the chronograph so we can get our velocity from the shells. So let's get you guys a view of that target and see what these Rocky Ridge 2-ounce 9s can give us through this new Avian-X 665 choke. I've got some high hopes for it, but let's take our shot and see what kind of a pattern it gives us. Alright, that shell gave us 1161 through the chrono. The bot's claim is 1100, so we were just a little bit above that claim. And yeah, these are some very hot 20 gauge shells, without a doubt. I mean, it's straight up 12 gauge type of recoil, at least in a single shot, like that 301. And it is a 12 gauge payload moving at 12 gauge velocities here as well. So they are definitely noticeable in the recoil department. But what kind of a pattern did they give us through that Avian-X down there at 40? Let's go check it out and see what we got. Alright, so now we're down here at our 40-yard paper, and I gotta say, this is nasty looking. Now, right off the bat, yes, we were low and to the right. I'm usually pretty good with that shotgun at getting it pretty much right where we need it to be, so there's a potential that that Avian-X choke just shoots a little low and to the right, but that's why you always test the combination you want to hunt with before you actually take it out in the woods, because different chokes and different shells will change your point of impact a little bit most of the time. But yeah, what we see down there is absolutely nasty. And the Birchwood KC didn't even really flake off all that great either, but it's just way too many pellets to get a paint marker in there. But yeah, I'll get you guys down here with it so you can see what's going on. That is a straight up nasty looking pattern there. It's a little bit larger than a basketball, so I don't know, maybe a 13-14 inch spread there total. It's a beautifully even spread of pellets as well. We might have a couple little tiny strings off the very outskirt edges, but nothing significant at all. The only flyers we have are two random flyers up here in the top right corner. Don't really know why we see those two up there, but the rest of the pattern is right down there. And I will go ahead in editing and pop up a 10-inch circle equivalent right there in the middle of that pattern so you can see just how good it actually is, because it is very impressive. That is an absolutely deadly pattern for a 20 gauge. And this is the second or third time here recently with that 301 that we've gotten a pattern like this that you just simply cannot argue with. I mean, for a $200 shotgun, that's been a very impressive performer for me so far. And it seems like this Avian-X choke is off to a fantastic start as well. I mean, I don't know that you can really ask for a whole lot better than that. It's nice and hot. It's a tight pattern, but it does give you a little bit of leeway to work with. As you can see, we pretty much definitely missed that turkey, but we still would have absolutely gotten him. There's plenty through the bottom of the neck right there that would have done the job just fine. So it gives you leeway, but that's a pattern that's going to be good out to 50 yards all day long. You're going to run out of energy with a number 9 TSS before you run out of pattern capability. So that's another very good field option, but it would be a little tight in there at 20 yards or so. That is a beautiful pattern. It's a very nice even spread of pellets, no question about it, and I really like that performance there. For a 2-ounce payload in a 20 gauge, you can't tell me that that's not every bit as capable as anything would be in a 12 gauge. So yeah, super impressive there, and for those people that were suggesting that combination, yeah, I think you were right on that one. So once again, these Rocky Ridge shells look to be some fantastic performance performers. And for a starting point, the first test we've done with that Avian-X 565, I'd say we're looking pretty good so far out of it. For a mid-price choke, I'll take that all day long. So now we got to run some other shells through it and see if that trend continues. But that combination is something you just cannot argue with. It's a beautiful even pattern. You have 2 flyers in the entire pattern. It gives you a little bit of leeway, but everything is right there still. And that's simply just a nasty performance. So I'm very impressed with this combination today. And here's the wad out of that shell. Very standard stuff for a 20 gauge. It's nothing too fancy to see, but we do have a few pellets stuck down in there, which I believe we've seen the same thing from this shell before. But would those 5 or 6 pellets have made a difference today? No, absolutely not. The wad is a little bit banged up. This little tail skirt piece has kind of inverted on itself. I believe we've seen this before too, but again, doesn't really seem to make any kind of difference here. I'd say this wad did exactly what it was supposed to do, so no real concerns from me if it's giving us performances like that. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about that performance right there? That's completely devastating for a 20 gauge load all day long. It's a 12 gauge payload at 2 ounces in a 20 gauge shell. It's a hot loaded shell. You're gonna feel the recoil of it, but it performs every bit as good as a 12 gauge shell would down here at 40 yards, no question about it. I wouldn't hesitate in the slightest to hunt with that combination. It's gonna be a little bit tight in there at 20 yards or so I would probably suggest having a red dot for that close range stuff. But if you're a field hunter or hunt mixed ag land or something like that, where you may very well come up on a field of turkeys and have to take a 45 or 50 yard shot, that combination would absolutely do it hands down. So nothing short of impressive today. If you have a 14-inch spread right there at 40 yards, it's about as perfectly even as what you could ever ask for, and you have 2 flyers up there at the top. Can you really ask for any better than that? I don't know. That might be about as good as it gets. Maybe close to the perfect 20 gauge pattern. I don't know. I guess leave all your thoughts down in the comments. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of these Rocky Ridge 2-ounce 20 gauge shells? And if so, what kind of results have you seen? Have you tested one of those Avian-X 565 chokes? And how has it performed for you? Would you hunt with that combination? Or is it still a little bit too tight for you even? I know for some people, that's going to be perfect. And others, it's going to be a little bit on the tight side. So would you hunt with that combo? And what other combinations of shell and choke do you want to see with either that Rocky Ridge 2-ounce load or that Avian-X 565 choke? Let me know all that down below. At the end of the day, if there's ever a 20 gauge pattern that's kind of going to speak for itself, that's probably it right there. I don't know that you can really get a whole lot better than that. So maybe today's combination was the perfect combination to get the best we can out of these shells. It's definitely a real possibility. So super impressive results today, hands down. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All that information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.